A very good morning and welcome to the Breakfast News. I'm Tracy Shilshi, and in the next 30 minutes I'll be getting you through the day's top stories, what we can expect in the day ahead. Let's start with the headlines. ASEAN leaders favor more assertive role for India in the Indo-Pacific region, recognize India's growing stature in ensuring regional peace. Prime Minister Modi to conclude series of bilateral talks with ASEAN leaders with a meeting with Cambodian Prime Minister today. India and ASEAN have relations free from contests and claims, says Prime Minister Modi. In an article published in 27 newspapers across the 10 ASEAN nations, asserts Indo-Pacific region is indispensable to India's future. Government allows small banks and payment banks to offer Atal Pension Yojana. Reserve Bank of India gives license to 10 small finance banks and 11 payment banks to start banking operations. America first does not mean America alone, says US President Donald Trump to global leaders at the World Economic Forum. At a private dinner in Davos, praises Indian growth rate. And South Africa is facing a tough challenge on bouncy pitch at Johannesburg as it chases 241-run victory target set by India. Play called off on third day of final test after opener hit by Bumrah ball. In the Australian Open, Bopanna and Babosh in the mixed doubles finals. Our top story, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will hold bilateral talks with his Cambodian counterpart Hun Sen today. Delegation-level talks will also be held between the two sides, followed by exchange of agreements. Prime Minister Modi on Friday held bilateral talks with his Malaysian counterpart Najib Razak. The talks focused on ways to enhance counter-terror cooperation, and boost ties in areas of defense, trade and investment. Razak is among the 10 ASEAN leaders who participated in the India-ASEAN Commemorative Summit and watched the Republic Day celebrations at Rajpath yesterday.
They talked about the excellent cooperation in trade and investment and of the participation of Malaysian companies in implementing a lot of road projects in different states of India. And they talked about further cooperation in railways and infrastructure, about enhancing law enforcement agencies, again, countering terrorism and countering radicalization, existing very good defense cooperation with Malaysia. And they talked about undertaking enhancing this, particularly in the light of the fact that both our countries, India and Malaysia, do have common defense platforms where we can work together.
Prime Minister Modi also held bilateral meeting with Prime Minister of Laos, PDR Thongloun Sisoulith in New Delhi. During the meeting, both leaders discussed issues of mutual interest.
Our Prime Minister, invited a business delegation from Lao PDR to undertake road shows in major cities to attract Indian investments in Laos. And here there is a project development fund which has been announced, which in fact is intended to encourage Indian investors and businessmen to invest in the CLMV countries, and we hope that this particular roadshow will give a boost.
Now, on the historic occasion of the 69th Republic Day, Prime Minister Narendra Modi wrote an op-ed in which in fact was featured in 27 newspapers in 10 languages across the 10 ASEAN countries. In the article, Shared Values, Common Destiny, published in the Straits Times, Prime Minister Modi highlighted the importance of India's ties with ASEAN nations. In his piece, he reiterated that India and ASEAN relations are free from contests and claims and believe in a sovereign equality of all nations irrespective of size and support for free and open pathways of commerce and engagement. He also highlighted India's centuries-old ties with its eastern neighbours and said that the future of these ties looks even more promising. Prime Minister Modi further said that he had the privilege to host the ASEAN leaders for the commemorative summit to mark 25 years of ASEAN-India partnership. External Affairs Ministry spokesperson, Ravish Kumar, tweeted a snapshot of the op-ed published, terming the act as an exceptional gesture of friendship nurtured by shared culture and civilizational linkages. And all 10 ASEAN leaders have conveyed to India their desire to see India play a more assertive role in the strategically important Indo-Pacific region while recognizing the country's growing stature in ensuring regional peace and stability. For the first time, ASEAN nations adopted unanimous resolutions against hegemonistic designs of China and Pakistan's attitude towards terrorism. Without naming the two countries, all ASEAN nations join hands with India in condemning cross-border terrorism emanating from one country and affecting the other. The resolutions were adopted as Delhi Declaration at the conclusion of the India-ASEAN Commemorative Summit held in Delhi. A Delhi Declaration was adopted at the end of the India-ASEAN Commemorative Summit. It includes Indian concerns on cross-border terrorism emanating from Pakistan and supports its stand against Pakistan's policy to fund and shelter terrorists. The declaration further reiterates commitment for a comprehensive approach to combat terrorism, promotes close cooperation in disrupting terrorist networks by countering cross-border movement of fighters and their misuse of internet, including social media, strengthens cooperation to stop terrorism financing efforts, supports efforts to target terrorist groups and sanctuaries, states that there can be no justification for acts of terror on any grounds whatsoever.
The need for working collectively in combating the menace of terrorism, also of working collectively in countering radicalization. Here, in the discussions that our Prime Minister had with the Prime Minister of Malaysia and Indonesia, they both shared their own experience and the legislation that they have introduced. Maritime cooperation was another one, specifically relating to handling both traditional and non-traditional security challenges, including humanitarian disaster relief, security cooperation, and freedom of navigation were the key areas that were identified for maritime cooperation.
The ASEAN nations, along with India, also condemned the Chinese attitude in South China Sea. The declaration says that to promote peace in the ASEAN region, the contentious issues must be resolved according to the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. India and the ASEAN nations also pledged to strengthen economic and trade cooperation. The Delhi Declaration says both India and ASEAN can become biggest trade blocs, and to fulfill this dream, they decided to establish the ASEAN-India Trade and Investment Centre to strengthen business-to-business relations. Akhilesh Suman's report for Rajya Sabha TV. All right, for more on what to expect in the day ahead, we've got a Foreign Affairs Editor, Akhilesh Suman, joining us on the phone line. Akhilesh, today, of course, we have the bilaterals between Prime Minister Modi and the Cambodian PM Hun Sen. What can we expect from that? More on the lines of what the Delhi Declaration said, or more one-on-one bilateral talks?
Actually, both the things will be included in that, because see, Cambodia is one of the most important countries as far as India's strategic goals are concerned, because Cambodia for last many years has been going close to China for their economic needs, and now Cambodian wants to balance it because they're seeing the Chinese hegemonistic attitude in the whole South Asian region. So every country in this region is a bit scared, and that is why they want to have a good relation with other countries like India, who is present in the region. So with Cambodian also, head of state also, this is going to be one of the major issues, that how India and Cambodia can increase relationship, just not symbolically, but also substantially, because symbolically India and Cambodia had been very close historically for political reasons. Both Cambodian king and Indian first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru were one of the pioneers of the non-aligned movement, but later when Phnom Penh government came, India detracted from Cambodia. But now again we have been on track, and cultural linkages between India and Cambodia is very strong. India has been helping Cambodia in rebuilding the temples, famous Cambodian temples. It has won the hearts of Cambodian people. So I think this is going to be a major bilateral issue, and that is why it has been put a special day and not in the normal bilaterals that had happened on the sidelines of summit. And I think that it is very important for India's strategic needs, Tracy.
Absolutely. And let's also just talk a bit about the op-ed, the article that, of course, Prime Minister Modi wrote, and it was, of course, across 27 newspapers in the 10 ASEAN nations, in their own languages. The significance of that, it does show, of course, a growing relationship, a more significant one between India and the ASEAN countries.
Yeah, naturally, Tracy, there is a sense of excitement in the whole ASEAN region because ASEAN has been of late seeing that China is growing very fast and influencing their domestic politics as well as their international strategic standing. So they have been expecting, and when we were talking to Preeti Saran, who is the Secretary East, she said that all of the ASEAN nations wants that India should be playing proactive role, more receptive role in ASEAN region. And when you read the Prime Minister's article and about Prime Minister when Prime Minister says that it is a non-contentious relationship, there is no competition between India and any of the ASEAN nations. ASEAN had grown in one phase in their own way, and India has been growing in their own way. But one of the major things that India and ASEAN share is culture. And once you look back to your culture, it makes a very big gelling factor. And that is why Prime Minister has said that it is one of the most important relationships of the whole century. And if there is a block between India and ASEAN trade block, it will be the biggest trade block in the whole nation.
Yes.
So the way the media has covered ASEAN, I was also in the International Media Center where ASEAN media people were there. And they were quite excited. They were thinking what had been in the past, how India and ASEAN were having a trade relationship, a maritime relationship. Even the spiritual leaders from India used to go there, go there in those days when there were no direct flights from any country to other country, when land routes were very difficult, but there had been travel.
All right.
So they are recollecting all those memories, and then
all right. Absolutely. We get the points that you're trying to make, Akhilesh. Unfortunately, the network's not clear, so we'll have to cut it there. But thanks so much for joining us. We'll come back to you through the day, of course, for more updates on, of course, the bilateral meeting that's to take place. Meanwhile, the 69th Republic Day on Friday celebrated 25 years of India-ASEAN partnership, with all 10 heads of states attending the Grand Parade at Rajpath as chief guests for the first time ever. Also, the colours of ASEAN were in full display at Republic Day ceremony, from tableau to performances, march past and fly past. The spirit of ASEAN was present throughout the parade. The 69th Republic Day celebrations witnessed an unprecedented event in India's history. Heads of states of all 10 ASEAN nations, including Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Brunei, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar and Vietnam, attended the parade as chief guests. They were warmly welcomed by the Prime Minister at Rajpath. The Republic Day Parade too celebrated the spirit of 25 years of India-ASEAN partnership. For the first time ever, the parade started with a flag march by a contingent of the Rajputana Rifles Regiment carrying the ASEAN flag as well as the flags of the 10 ASEAN nations. The ASEAN leaders watched the Grand Parade sitting on a 100-foot bulletproof stage along with President Ramnath Kovind, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. An ASEAN tableau also rolled down Rajpath, named ASEAN India 25. The tableau made by the Ministry of External Affairs portrayed historical, civilizational and religious links as the binding force between India and ASEAN countries. The front portion of this tableau portrayed the Mahabodhi temple and Bodhi tree at Bodh Gaya, where Gautam Buddha attained enlightenment. The rear part depicted a melange of diverse Southeast Asian Ramayanas. Couples wearing traditional attires of the 10 ASEAN countries and carrying flags of the member nations accompanied the tableau. 150 students from Delhi's Mount Abu Public School also showcased 25 years of India-ASEAN relationship in a dance performance. The ASEAN leaders were in New Delhi to attend the India-ASEAN Summit. 69th Republic Day, President Ramnath Kovind hosted the traditional at-home reception on the lawns of Rashtrapati Bhavan in Delhi on Friday evening. Many dignitaries were present during the ceremony, including Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, former Vice President Muhammad Hamid Ansari, former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh and Congress President Rahul Gandhi. The leaders of 10 ASEAN countries also attended the event. Several union ministers, including Arun Jaitley and Ravi Shankar Prasad, and the 3 service chiefs were also present on the occasion. A quick break here. We'll be back with more national news stories and also the top international news in just a bit. What is GST? The Goods and Services Tax subsumes both central and state level taxation. The entire element of tax borne by a good or a service will be represented by a GST paid on it. At present, GST is imposed in 4 slabs of 5%, 12%, 18% and 28%.
Tales that inspire. Stories of social change. A salute to diversity. Promoting public discourse. Events that motivate. Inspiring the innovative spirit. Watch Rajya Sabha television documentaries.
This is Kibutu in Arunachal Pradesh, East Point East on the map of India. Kibutu is dangerously close to the Chinese pressure point. We see first-hand and unseen areas of sand dunes and see how BSF is guarding this difficult territory along the Indo-Pak borderline. We are now slowly entering into the interior-most parts of the Sir-Creek area. Indo-Tibetan Border Police Force justifies each word of this saying. Watch super exclusive episodes of National Security series only on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. The government has allowed small finance banks and payments banks to offer Atal Pension Yojana. Finance Ministry in a statement said that 10 small finance banks and 11 payments banks have got license from the Reserve Bank of India to start banking operations in the country. The banks include the Ujjivan Small Finance Bank, Janalakshmi Small Finance Bank, Suryodaya Small Finance Bank, India Post Payment Bank and the Paytm Payment Bank. The ministry said that given the strength, expertise and reach of these banks, they can play a pivotal role in the outreach of subscribers under APY. At present, over 84 lakh subscribers are registered under the APY scheme with an asset base of more than 3,194 crore rupees. The government had launched this social security scheme, APY, in 2015. The scheme is available to the people in the age group of 18 to 40 years. International news. And US President Donald Trump on Friday proposed to end the visa lottery system in favor of reducing backlogs of highly skilled workers. It is a plan that may benefit thousands of Indian IT professionals who are currently having several decades of waiting period to get their green cards. The Diversity Immigrant Visa Program, which the Trump administration wants to terminate, awards up to 50,000 individuals per year a visa for a green card, which allows permanent residency and is a path to US citizenship. Trump has been against diversity visa as he believes that this does not attract the best and the brightest to the US. In the recent past, several homegrown terrorists, including the prime accused of New York terror attacks, came either on diversity visa or chain migration. And the World Economic Forum concluded in Davos on Friday with a keynote closing speech by US President Donald Trump. The US president donned a salesman hat and hailed the success from his first year in office. He told global finance leaders that he will always put America first when it comes to trade, but that does not mean America alone. He also pledged to promote a fair and reciprocal trade system by negotiating for mutually beneficial trade agreements. Trump also declared that there has never been a better time to hire, build, invest and grow in the United States. White House officials say that Trump's remarks in Davos served as a prelude to elements of the president's first State of the Union address next week in Washington. Also at a private dinner hosted in Davos, Trump hailed India's growth rate.
As President of the United States, I will always put America first, just like the leaders of other countries should put their country first also. But America first does not mean America alone. When the United States grows, so does the world. American prosperity has created countless jobs all around the globe, and the drive for excellence, creativity, and innovation in the U.S. has led to important discoveries that help people everywhere live more prosperous and far healthier lives.
And here are more international news updates in World Wrap. A day after the deadly fire in a South Korean hospital, officials confirmed that at least 41 people have been killed and about 130 injured. The blaze is thought to have started in the emergency room at Sejong Hospital. Nearly 200 patients were inside the building and an adjoining nursing home when the fire broke out in the morning. It is South Korea's deadliest fire in almost a decade. The entire USA Gymnastics or USAG board has said that it will comply with the US Olympic Committee's ultimatum to resign over an abuse scandal. 5 members have already put in their resignations. The USOC outlined the steps after ex-USAG doctor Larry Nassar was sentenced to 40 to 175 years of sexually abusing young athletes. Nearly 160 women have accused him of sexual abuse. The Seine River in Paris continues to rise as rescue services aided victims hit by flooding in the regions surrounding Paris. Exceptionally heavy rains have caused power outages and forced about 400 evacuations. Residents of Villeneuve-les-Roi, a riverside suburb, were among those greatly affected by the increasing water levels of the Seine. The National Weather Agency said that 20 departments remain on orange alert, the second highest level of vigilance. A riot-like shopping frenzy enveloped several supermarkets in France as makers of the famed Nutella chocolate spread declared a 70% discount on prices. Chaotic scenes were reported at branches of French supermarket chain Intermarché as customers fought to take advantage of the offer. Videos posted online showed the lengths to which people were prepared to go in order to get their hands on the spread. The makers of Nutella, Ferrero brands, said that the decision to discount the product was made unilaterally by Intermarché, but they never expected such a reaction. And now on to sports news. In South Africa will resume their second innings against India on day 4 of the third and final test match at Johannesburg today. On Friday, the hosts were 17 for the loss of 1 wicket in their second innings with batsmen Deel Elgar and Hashim Amla at the crease. Play was stopped after South African batsman Elgar took a nasty hit on his helmet grill. India has set a victory of 241 on a two-phase pitch where the ball is taking an awkward bounce. And an ace Indian badminton player, Saina Nehwal, has advanced to the semi-finals of the Indonesia Masters in the women's singles. Nehwal beat PV Sindhu in straight sets 21-13, 21-19. Saina, who has a silver and a bronze at World Championships, will take on former world champion Ratchanok Intanon of Thailand in the women's singles semi-finals today. In the men's doubles, Indian pair of S. Ranki Reddy and Chirag Shetty stunned 4th-seeded and world number 6 Denmark pair of Mads Conrad Petersen and Mats Pierre Kolding 21-23, 21-15, 19-21. The duo will now face the pair of top seeds Indonesian pair in the semi-final. And in news from the Australian Open, ace Indian player Rohan Bopanna inched closer towards his second Grand Slam title by reaching the mixed doubles final of the tournament along with his Hungarian partner Timea Babos. The pair beat Brazilian Marcelo de Molina and Spain's Maria Jose Martinez Sanchez 7-5, 5-7, 10-6 in the semi-final. The duo will now face the pair of Gabriela Dabrowski and Mate Pavic on Sunday. In the men's singles, world number 2, Roger Federer has advanced to the final, beating South Korea's Hyun Chung 6-1, 5-2. Federer will now face Marin Cilic tomorrow. And in the women's singles, Denmark's Caroline Wozniacki will face Simona Halep in the title match today. That's all we could pack in on the breakfast news. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a good day ahead.